اللهم صل على وعلى محمد. رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الفاسفين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين ذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الذين يبلغون رسالات الله ويخشونه ولا يخشون أحدا إلا الله وكفى بالله حسيبا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات الله. Brothers and sisters in Iman, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. This is the seventh Majlis in this series of Majalis, which began last Saturday under the topic of Deen and our responsibilities. Every day, under various ayat of Quran pertinent to that particular day's discussion, we recited ayat. Tonight, I chose this ayat from Surah Ahzab, ayat number 39. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayat praises alladhina yuballighuna risalatillah, those who convey the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or the messages of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and are humble to Him. وَلَا يَخْشَوْنَ أَحَدًا إِلَّا اللَّهِ, and they fear none except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. كَفَى بِاللَّهِ حَسِيبًا, and indeed Allah is sufficient as far as their accountant is concerned. Tonight, the series that we began under the topic of Deen and our responsibilities, we discussed first aspect of it, which is the ma'rifat of this Deen. The second aspect was completed last night under the discussion of how it is our responsibility after understanding this Deen is to be completely submissive towards it. Without questioning, without any criticizing. Now, you have the right to ask, but there's a way of asking and understanding. When we believe in Quran, we must believe in every single word of this Quran. And so a lot of time, what happens is that our company and our gathering affects us a great deal. And when I see a lot of young faces here tonight, I thought I'd get this out of the way earlier before I forget and we get into the main discussion. That there are many aspects and there are many individuals that affect us. One of the most important things that we need to focus, especially as youngsters, is about our company, about our friendship. Amir al-Mu'mineen mentions that if you want to understand someone, you travel with them or you lend them money. These are two ways of testing someone. Because when you travel with someone, how do you test someone when you're traveling? Well, when you travel, you're outside of your comfort zone. You're not home. When you're home, you're able to bear many problems and challenges and difficulties. But when you're away from home, strikes a panic if something is missing, if something goes wrong. You'd rather get sick when you're home than when you're traveling, when you're going for ziyarat. You only have a few days. You don't want to fall sick over there to miss out on the opportunity. Imam says, aside from these two, if you can't, because there are some people, you can't figure them out, even when you travel with them. Imam said the only other way of understanding and testing is looking at their company. Who are they hanging out with? Who are they acquaintance with? Who are they, seeing together with? That's very important, and especially in this part of the world. I want to give credit where it belongs. I heard this quote from Dr. Liaquat Takim. He said, we bring our daughters to Imam Barga. We tell them this is Muhammad, this is Ali, this is Jafar. You can't sit with them. You can't talk to them. But you'll eventually marry one of them. Then we take them to school. We tell them this is John, this is Michael, this is Harry. You can sit with them. You can talk to them all you want to, but you can't marry any of them. The kind of message that we're trying to give is the separation that we have provided over here, and no separation when it comes to their school life. With that said, we got to be cognizant of what our company is like. Who are we friends with? Our parents are trusting us with that. There's a beautiful, poetry, a sher in Farsi. Shair said, Ta tawani mi guriz az yar bad. Avoid bad friend as much as possible. Ta tawani mi guriz az yar bad. Yar bad battar buvad az mar bad. Why? Because a bad friend, a bad company is worse than a serpent, a snake. It's worse than a snake. Mar bad. Tanha hami bar jan zanad. What's the worst that can happen with a snake? It'll bite you and take your life. Yar bad bar jan wa bar iman zanad. But a bad company, a bad friend is not only going to take your life, but is also going to take your iman along with it as well. So be very cognizant of whom you choose as your company. That if you are hanging out with them and someone in the community sees you, do you feel okay or do you try and hide it? If you're trying to hide it, no, there's something wrong with it. Now that's when you see someone in the community. What if Imam of your time saw you with such a company? So be very, very careful. Why? You're all representatives of this deen. You're all muballigh and the preachers of this deen. While Maulanas might come and scholars might come and sit on the minbar and preach you. But guess what? All of you are serving as, in the grand scheme of things, as the preachers of Islam. People look up to you and they make their understanding about Islam. Oh, this is what Islam has produced. When they see ISIS, Taliban, and when they are projected with stereotype in Hollywood about Muslims. Always an Arab is shown in Hollywood movies as what? Someone barbaric, living in Stone Age, and absolutely backward. That's the picture that they have painted for the past half century. So what do you think people are going to understand? And then plus, they got to understand not all Muslims are Arabs. In fact, Arabs are minority. Majority of Muslims are not Arabs. But when they see Arabs, they think it's Muslims, and this is how they painted the picture of a Muslim. And then on top of that, you have these, terrorist organizations which are given a bad name to Islam in the name of jihad. A sacred position, a sacred act of ibadat. Yeah, jihad is ibadat. You count furu'ideen with me. Salat, Saum, Namaz, Roza, Hajj, Zakat, Homs, Jihad. It's part of your furu. Now, of course, jihad has many aspects. It's not always carrying a sword in your hand and going to the battlefield. There's jihad bin nafs as well, fighting against your own soul. A battalion came back. Rasulullah welcomed them, and he said to them, Marhaba biqawmin qadawu jihad al-asghar wa baqiya alayhim jihadul akbar. Welcome back. Those who just perform minor struggle. Awaits you is the major struggle. Right away, people were puzzled. They said, Rasulullah, we almost died over there. And you think that was minor struggle? What could be bigger than that? Rasul said, jihad bin nafs. It's easy to fight with the sword, but it's difficult to defeat your own nafs. So be very cognizant how you present yourself, because you're all muballighin of religion of Islam. Any move that you make can lead a positive or a negative impact. And not just on you and your character, but also the religion that you're representing. In your schools, in your colleges, in your workplaces, everywhere. You are that lone representative of Islam. Now, the entire Islam by your colleagues is through you. How you carry yourself. Now, some of us are scared. We don't even show that we are Muslims. Because nothing about us can tell an onlooker that we're Muslim. And we have even changed our names. Not to mock anyone. We've changed our names. Just so that we can accommodate people. Muhammad became Mo. And now people don't know if this Mo is Muslim or non-Muslim. Therefore, you don't have to represent them. Shying away and running away from it. This ayat 39 from Surah Ahzab says what? الَّذِينَ يُبَلِّغُونَ رِسَالَاتِ اللَّهِ وَيَخْشَوْنَهُ. Those who convey the messages of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and are humble towards Him. وَلَا يَخْشَوْنَ أَحَدًا إِلَّا اللَّهِ. They fear none except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't carry any fear whatsoever except the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَكَفَى اللَّهِ حَسِيبًا. And they consider Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be the best when it comes to their accountability. So therefore, when you just look at this ayat, just to open up this ayat, we got 4 items in it. Any secret to successful tabligh, and you're all part of this tabligh. You're all part of this risalat. You're all part of this conveying the message. Number 1, that this tabligh has to be continuous. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used a present tense in this ayat. الَّذِينَ يُبَلِّغُونَ. So that tells you, even the ayat might be referring towards Anbiya. And the last Nabi came 14 centuries ago. Yuballighun is in present tense. Those who are continuously doing the tabligh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore, the sigha which is being used is from sigha taf'il, which means continuous and gradual and ongoing. So you can't give up after a few attempts. You got to persevere. You got to make sure that you are persistent. Number 2, taqwa is necessary in your tabligh. وَلَا يَخْشَوْنَهُ وَلَا يَخْشَوْنَ أَحَدًا إِلَّا اللَّهِ. They don't fear anyone, but they fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is the fear of Allah? Fear of Allah is different than the fear that you have from a monster. Get that out of your system. We don't fear Allah the way you fear a lion, for example, a bear, for example. If you were out in the woods and you saw a fierce animal, the fear that you have of your death, that this animal might attack you and kill you and maul you, that's not the fear that you have from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's this azamat of Allah that is there when His fear comes about. So fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this humbleness that we talk about. Even in salat, you talk about khudu and khushu, the khashiyat. Yakhshawna comes from the same root. You're not afraid of someone who's going to go out and strike you and kill you and throw you into Jahannam. No, Allah is a God, loving, peaceful God. Amongst all the divine religions, seems Christians are the pioneers of it. That they all represent God as a loving figure. God is merciful. God is loving. God is someone who will forgive us all, regardless of what we do. Third aspect, you need to be, strong. And you need to be precise when it comes to this tabligh. You can't beat around the bush. You got to be strong, steadfast, and qati, meaning without any ambiguity when it comes to this tabligh. And lastly, you do tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the 4 steps this ayat teaches us as far as the tabligh is concerned. Topic tonight, how is that related to it? Promoting the faith and increasing the followers. After you've attained the recognition of deen, after you become completely submissive towards this deen, what is the third duty? Third duty is that we promote this religion. We don't hold back. We don't keep it to ourselves. We share it with others. And inshallah, we'll talk about why should we share it. There's a wrong notion amongst our sufuf and our lanes and our discussions that we don't need to spread the religion. Like the Jews, they don't want more people becoming Jews. Islam, you spread it or not, it's spreading anyway. But wouldn't it be better if those who became Muslims became and came to the path of Ahlul-bayt right away? Not after struggling for years and years and then finding the truth. Our Sunni brothers, they do a good job at it. They have a team of tabligh and dawah. Now there are flaws in it. They send out people doing this tabligh and dawah who lack character. But they keep on doing it, so they're spreading it. One of the leaders of the Muslim Ummah, who's dead by the way now, he said, we don't need to convert people. Islam will take over the world by 2050 on its own. The way it's spreading demographically will be in majority. Right now, every 4th person or every 5th person is a Muslim. By 2050, this will be changed. Every 2nd person or every third person will be a Muslim. That's how Islam is spreading. First and foremost, these people are going in the wrong direction. Not only they're going away from religion, not only they've become anti-religion, anti-religious, following what Karl Marx had said, religion is a venom, is a poison. You see a lot of atheists come about nowadays, openly, and then there's no reproduction. How could there be when they believe in, same-sex marriages? So, of course, numbers are not going to increase for them. While Islam, on the other hand, emphasizes a great deal on marriage between man and woman, and of course, kasrat-e awlad. One of the riwayat that you hear whenever there's a nikah going on, usually scholars who recite the khutbah of nikah, they read this riwayat. Prophet of Islam, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Tanasalu takatharu, and Tanasalu takasaru takthru. Wa inni ubahi bikum yawm al-qiyamah walau bis-sik. That marry and have kathrat in awlad, many children, so that I can take pride on the day of judgment of more people were in my nation, even if it's stillborn. Right? Even if it's stillborn. So, as is, demographically will increase. So you don't need to worry about that. But while it is our duty that we've learned this religion, we've come to this faith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefited us, favored us with it. Don't you teach children from the very beginning? Share with your friends. You give 2 candies, you give a toy, and you're always telling your kids, share with your cousin, share with your friend. Now, of course, kids are possessive of their toys. They're going to have a hard time sharing. They might share while just to show off to you, but then the moment you're away, then they'll take it back. That's a child's nature. But nonetheless, what are we teaching them? We're teaching them to share. We teach them to share when they're young, but we don't want to share when we are older. No, this religion is a favor, is a ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's worth exploring, and it's worth sharing. Just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ayat of Quran says, Huwa ansha'akum min al-ardi wasta'amarakum fiha. He's created you from this earth, and He has established you in it. And this earth is for you. Sakhara lakum ma fil ardi jami'a. It is for your benefit, whatever is created between the heavens and the earth. You benefit from it. One of the favors of Allah, the immense value, is the water. Human race will cease to exist if water was not there. What is our duty towards this water? We should be cognizant and not wasteful. The tap is running. Someone tells you, please turn it off. Like, it's my house, I'll waste water all I want to. It might be your house, but water is a necessity for the entire community, entire universe. You cannot be wasteful about it. It's a commodity, and if you think about it, many places on this very earth, people are struggling for clean drinking water. And that should make you even more cognizant of how you should be watchful over it. So when Allah has given you this ni'mat, not to pollute it, not to waste it, similarly, religion is a bigger ni'mat than water. Water is there for your physical survival. Religion is there for your spiritual survival. for your hereafter. When deen becomes a bigger ni'mat, what is your duty? Should you not share with others? What is the concept of ni'mat, by the way? When Allah gives something to us, we can use it, but we're not allowed to abuse it. The worst is that I don't abuse it. That's the worst. The best is I use it properly and I share it with others. Let me give you an example. Let's say someone moves. Let's say I move down here to Orlando. After reciting Majlis here, I decide that I'm going to come down and start living here. Now I need a place to stay. So I look around in the crowd, I see a few faces. Tell him, can I stay with you? He say, yeah, I have an extra room. Please come and stay with me as long as you need to. I said, I'll probably be staying with you for a month until I find a place for myself. When you give me the keys to your house and you allow me to stay in that room free of charge, by the way, I'm already setting the conditions. Free of charge, by the way. He said, don't worry about it, for a month. For you, Maulana, it's okay. What is the least expectation that you have from me after a month? That I leave this room that you have rented me free of charge in the same exact way. Right? I gave you spotless, clean. The least expectation is that you return it the same way. What's the worst that could happen? I start writing on the walls. I break the furniture inside the room. And I leave it in a state that you'll say, well, this person is never again coming back here again. When Allah bestows His ni'mat upon you, you can either use it or you can break it. Use it properly. That's the benefit, which is used the way Allah wants it to be used. So for example, if Allah has given you these eyes, I'm not talking about other benefits. I'm talking about favors and the bounties that we all can relate to. I'm not talking about money and houses and cars. Not all of us have access to that. Favors of Allah which all of us share. Allah has given us these eyes. Now, ophthalmologists might put a price tag on it, but can you put a price tag on these eyes? Allah has given us this heart. Can you put a price tag on this heart? Allah has given us these ears. The way to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for these favors is to use them properly. He's given me these eyes and He's given me instructions. This is halal, this is haram. What is the best way to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? To use these eyes in the right way. He's given me these ears and He's told me this is halal, this is haram. What's the best way of thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is to use them how He wants me to use it properly. Not in haram way. That's the best way of thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Otherwise, you and I cannot put a price tag on what Allah has given to us. There's no price tag on these eyes. You know when we realize the worth of these organs? When we lose them. Ask those whose eyes are now so weak that they can barely see and drive. Ask those who can barely hear without hearing aids. Ask those who have lost other organs and they're suffering because of that. You start valuing things once you've lost it. But that's too late. Anyone can understand the value of it once it's gone. You got to be able to realize its worth while it still is in your possession. So this deen is a ni'mat, one of the biggest ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How should we be using it? Using it to further the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Preaching it to others. Spreading it. One of the reasons why we spread it It's because don't you want to bring people out of darkness? يُخْرِجُونَهُمْ مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. You want to bring people out of zulumat towards where? Towards nur. Not for demographic reason. Not that so that we become hundreds and thousands of Muslims over here and the Shia Muslims over here. No, for merely you feel for those who are lost. You know, many times these people that come to us, that they want to convert to religion of Islam, not after hearing me, after hearing some inspirational speeches or reading about it, reading Quran or reading Nahjul Balagha. By the way, if someone wants to become a Muslim, wants to convert to Islam, Quran may not be the best thing to give to them right away. So we are rushing to give Quran. Give it to them, not a problem, but that may not be the best thing to give them right away. You know what you want to introduce? You want to introduce to them something which is a light reading in Quran, Islam. Risalatul Huquq would be a good thing to give them. Let them walk into the realm of Islam by understanding the huquq and the rights. Our fourth Imam has mentioned about people in our surroundings, about organs that we possess, about certain individuals in our society. Imam talks about the right of your God, the right of your nafs, the right of your eyes, your ears, your feet, your hand, the right of your spouse, the right of your friend, the right of your muallim, the right of your teacher, the right of your neighbor, the right of your wife, the right of your husband, the right of your mother, the right of your father, the right of your children. And 50 rights are mentioned, 50 in Risalatul Huquq. It's a small Risala. That's why it's called a Risala. Now, commentary has been done on volumes, but it's a small Risala. That would be a very good and light reading for someone who wants to become Muslim. You hear about someone who's interested in Islam? Send them the PDF. Here, read this first. That would be a good introduction to religion of Islam. Quran may not serve that purpose right away, because, to be honest, are you ready to explain the Quran to them? When they bring ayat of qital for you from Surah Tawbah, run after them, kill them until they're submissive. Are you ready to explain this ayat to them? Or other ayat of Quran, which we have not properly understood. Therefore, give them something which will be beneficial. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This spreading of this religion, tabligh of this deen, doesn't always have to be in their speech. Doesn't always have to be in the words. Sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam said, Kunu du'atan linnase bighayri alsinatikum. Be the inviters, those who invite, du'atan linnas, those who invite people, bighayri alsinatikum, without using your tongues. Don't use your tongue. Without using your tongue, you can invite people to the cause of Islam. How? Through your character, through your good deeds, through your loyalty, through your faithful nature, through your trustworthiness, through these akhlaq, which Islam is teaching us. These are the akhlaq that, if presented, will attract people to you. They'll make people come to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to Hazrat Musa. So, oh Musa, invite people to me, towards me. He said, oh Allah, how do I do that? He said, oh Musa, tell them about the favors that I have done to them. When they'll learn about the favors that I have done to them, they'll be attracted to me. That's how it is. And then, oh Musa, you should also be thankful to us for the risalah that we have given to you, for the nubuwwat that we have given to you. You know what the response Hazrat Musa gave? He said, oh Allah, it is impossible to thank you. Why? Because in order to thank you, I'm going to use this tongue. You have given it to me. In order to thank you, I'm going to think about it in my mind. You have given it to me. In order to utter these words, I'm going to have to breathe in and out. Use these lungs. You have given it to me. And then he counted 7 different things. And he said, oh Allah, every time I want to say Alhamdulillah to you, I have to thank you 7 more times because of the organs that I will be using in order to thank you. So meaning it is impossible to thank you. Allah said, oh Musa, you have come to the right decision. You've understood the humbleness in thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the favors that He has bestowed upon you. Salawat bhijiye. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Another aspect of tabligh related to Hazrat Musa. You know the story of Hazrat Musa when he was, he ran out of Misr after having this interaction. When he grew older and he had this interaction with this man, he punched him and he died and he left and he fled Misr and he stayed in Madian for some years, got married. Now he's finally returning. He receives wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to go back to Fir'aun with his brother Harun. فَقُولَا قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا. Oh Musa, I want you to go back to Fir'aun. Preach to Fir'aun. But how? قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا. Soft speech. Who? To Fir'aun. Staunch enemy. The biggest enemy of Hazrat Musa. Kill at sight. That kind of enemy. But Allah says to him what? No, when you speak to Fir'aun, speak to him softly. Because harsh words are not going to make any impact. The ayah continue. فَقُولَ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرَ وَيَخْشَى. It is possible that someone like Fir'aun, when you speak to him softly, will fear or will be reminded and remember, and he'll come to the path. Of course, that didn't happen. But nonetheless, here's a lesson in it for us. When you want to preach, when you want to speak, when you want to deliver the message, when you're conveying the message of Allah, convey how Hazrat Musa was told to give it to Fir'aun. And lastly, before I bring you to a close, the words of Masumeen, brothers and sisters, it's not just our kamal that we deliver them to people. The words of Masumeen, according to Imam, is that all you've got to do is take our ahadith to the people. And they will be attracted. فَإِنَّ النَّاسِ لَوْ عَلِمُوا مَحَاسِنَ كَلَامِنَا لَاتَّبَعُونَا. If only people were exposed to the beauty of our words, مَحَاسِنَ كَلَامِنَا, what will happen to them? They'll start following us. You just got to do the half part. Take these words to them. You know how quickly we share a hadith and some quotes that come to us on WhatsApp? Oh, I like this quote. Let me forward to 10 people. Thank God the new feature, you can't forward and mass forward anymore. So you have to do it one by one, so that limits your ability to send it. But nonetheless, you get this quote, you like it, and then you one click and you send it all over. Without authenticating, first of all, if it's right or not. But nonetheless, if it is good, you want to share it with others. I want to share it with my friends. I want to share it with my brothers. I want to share it with my sisters. I want them to also enjoy this quote. But you know what? You might even see forwarded many times, right? It says on top of it, forwarded many times. Yes, forwarded many times. Read many times, but applied 0 times. Adapted 0 times. Implemented 0 times. That's what's lacking. It's easy to forward. A very beautiful quote. Ayat of Quran, hadith from Imam. Let's share it, mass share. But never do you see that people are implementing. Not a single person is following it. You just forwarded this to me and you're doing the opposite of it. Yeah, I didn't even read it myself. I just read it, browse through it. Many other things were coming, and that was one of those things, and that was it. That should not be the case. So therefore, Imam says, if only people knew the beauty of our religion or beauty of our kalam, they will start following us. And last aspect of this tabligh, which was given to our Prophet. Ya ayyuhar Rasul, balligh ma unzila ilayka min rabbik. O Prophet, convey that which has been asked to convey from you. And if you do not convey, you have not conveyed the risalat at all. And Allah will protect you from the enemy. That means that after hearing this message, enemies are going to attack Rasulullah. Rasulullah lived, and everybody knows when this message was delivered. At Ghadir Khum, in Hajjatul Wada, the last Hajj. Rasulullah spent first 13 years of his life propagating in the midst of kuffar and mushrikeen of Makkah, who wanted to take his life. Many attempts were made. But not once when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Prophet to announce Tawheed, announce Risalat, talk about Qayamat, talk about Jihad and Zakat and all those things that became wajib while he was living in Makkah. Not once do you find Rasulullah was told, O Rasul, Wallahu ya'asimuka minan nas. Allah will protect you. Not once. While he's living in clear danger, not once was he told that Allah will protect you. Now Rasulullah is in the midst of Hujjaj, those who have just done Hajj, tens and thousands of them. O Rasul, convey this message. If you don't convey, you have not conveyed the Risalat at all. Wallahu ya'asimuka minan nas. And Allah will protect you from the people. Now he's amongst the Muslimin. Do I have any fear sitting over here? As opposed to if I was in the midst of a hostile, Zionist crowd. Yes, I would be more fearful over there. A hostile Zionist crowd. As you and I would all be. But here, I don't have any fear. Why is it that Allah is telling him that to be on the watch out? But we'll protect you. Who is he under attack from? These Muslimin, these Hujjaj? He said, yes. The moment they'll hear this announcement, there's a possibility of a revolt, and they might try to take Rasulullah out. What is the message? To announce the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salatu wassalam. I don't have time, but just one reaction to it. You've heard of the name Abid ibn Nu'man al-Fihri. This man, after hearing this command from Rasulullah, he challenged him. He said, "Oh Rasulullah, you told us to fast, we fasted. You told us to believe in you, we believed in you. You told us to believe in one God, we believed in it. You told us to go to jihad, we did it. You told us to go to Hajj, we did it. Now you want to impose your brother, your son-in-law and your brother upon us as your rightful leader and successor? Is this from you or from Allah?" Look at the ignorance of this man. Isn't he heard the ayat of Quran? Ma yantiqu anil hawa in huwa illa wahyun yuha. Rasulullah doesn't speak out of his own whims. He says only what Allah has told him to say. Meaning everything that Rasulullah says is from Allah. So when he says what he says, that man kuntu mawla fa aliyun mawla, it is not from him. It is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, if this is from you, then I'm not going to follow. But if it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let there be adhab of Allah come on to me, and I die on the spot. The first ayat of Surah Ma'arij, Sa'ala sa'ilun bi'adhabin waqi. The moment he asked for this adhab, This is not in regards to Risalat. This is not in regards to Tawheed. This is not about Nubuwwat. This is about the Wilayat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends the adab on the spot. A stone comes down, it strikes this man, he dies on the spot. You don't mess with the Wilayat of Masumin. Wilayat of Ali. I've run out of my time. Inshallah, we'll continue from here. That this Risalat continued in the form of this imamat. Imams gave their lives for the sake of religion. They sacrificed themselves doing this tabligh so that this deen gets to us in this rightful format. Amongst them was our second imam, who fought and fought until he was poisoned. And according to some riwayat, by his own wife, Ju'da bint Ash'as. And when Imam was poisoned, Imam was throwing blood. He didn't want anyone to see the blood that was coming out of his mouth. Especially he didn't want his sister Zainab to see it. So he said to, "Oh Hussein, cover this blood that is coming out of my mouth. I don't want my sister Zainab to lay her eyes on this and see me in this condition." I said, "Mawla, you're worried about Zainab seeing the blood that you're throwing out? Come to Karbala, you'll see Zainab will be seeing the blood that comes from the severed necks." Imam Hassan, before leaving though, knew that he would not be present in Karbala. He said, "Oh Hussein, my children are there for your jihad." Why? When Hussein was crying on Imam Hassan said that famous line, "La yawma ka yawmika ya Aba Abdullah." There's no day like your day, O Aba Abdullah. This is nothing what you will go through, O Aba Abdullah. Ajrukum Allah. Tonight, we talk about that son of Imam Hassan by the name Qasim. Qasim was 2 years old when Imam Hassan passed away. He's 13 years old in Karbala. Imam Hassan has multiple sons that are present in Karbala. Abdullah is one of them. Hassan Musanna is one of them. Qasim is one of them. But we hear more about the shahadat of Qasim than any other. Riwayat mentioned that he was not baligh, he was only 13 years old. And on the night of Ashur, Imam ﷺ dimmed the light. And when he turned it back on, he saw everybody was sitting. Then when nobody left, Imam started to recite the names of shuhada. He said, "You will be shaheed tomorrow, you will be shaheed tomorrow, you will be shaheed tomorrow, you will be martyred tomorrow." When he finished reciting all the names, there was this child who didn't hear his name. He said, "Oh Imam, how come you didn't recite my name? Am I not amongst the list of those who are going to be martyred tomorrow?" Imam knew, so he wanted to test this young child. This is how we train our 13-year-olds. He said, "Oh, last sign of my brother Hassan, O Qasim, kayfa wajadta al-maut?" How is maut in front of you? How do you see and how do you perceive this maut? Qasim responded by saying, "Ahla min al-asal." This maut is sweeter than honey to me. Imam said, "O Qasim, not only that you will attain martyrdom tomorrow, but your younger brother Ali Asghar will also be martyred." Here Qasim, upon hearing this, that Ali Asghar will also be martyred, he became enraged and he said, "Oh Mawla, are they going to come inside the tents?" Imam said, "No Qasim, I will bring your younger brother to the maqtal as well." Ajrukum Allah. May Allah give you no grief, no sorrow, except the grief and the sorrow of Ahlul-bayt. And this is where the next day comes about. The day of Ashur comes. Now is the day of Ashur. Everybody is giving their sacrifices. Jab sab ne apni shahadat ke nazrane pesh kar diye, one by one everybody gave their lives. Ab aati hai bari jawana ne Banu Hashim ki. روایات میں ملتا ہے just for the sake of children they all were martyred on the same day, on the day of Ashur, one Asr. In fact, in few hours all of them they had attained martyrdom. But we separate their masaib on every night, the night of 6th, the night of 7th, the night of 8th, we dedicate to one shaheed, but all of them of course were martyred on the same afternoon, one after another. ایک کے بعد ایک جانا چاہتا ہے. روایات میں ملتا ہے کہ پہلا شہید جوانان بنو ہاشم میں حضرت علی اکبر ہیں. اس کے بعد سے یہ آتا ہے قاسم, 13 سال کا سن ہے. He comes to امام asking for the permission. امام کہتے ہیں اے قاسم تم میرے بھائی کی آخری نشانی ہو, میں تمہیں کس طرح جانے دوں. امام منع کر دیتے ہیں. اب یہ بچہ ہے واپس کمرے میں آتا ہے, اب واپس خیمے میں آتا ہے, ماں کے آمنے آ کے گریا کرتا ہے. ماں بچے کو گریا کرتے دیکھتی ہے تو اس سے رہا نہ جاتا ہے. ماں فوراً آتی ہے, اے میرے بچے میں قربان, کس چیز نے تجھے رونے پہ آمادہ کیا؟ کہا میں گیا تھا چچا کے پاس, اس نے جہاد کے لیے, ارے انہوں نے مجھے اجازت نہ دی, آپ ہی کچھ سفارش کیجئے. ایک دفعہ ام فروا قاسم کی ماں خیمے سے باہر آتی ہیں, اپنا لباس اپنا برقع اوڑا, اپنی چادر لی. اس حالت میں جب باہر آئی, ایک دفعہ حسین نے دیکھا کہ بھابھی فروا باہر آتی ہیں, اپنے مقام سے کھڑے ہو گئے. حسین stood up for the respect of فروا. He says, oh بھابھی why have you come, آپ نے کیوں زحمت کی؟ کہا اے حسین, اے مولا حسین, یہ میرا بچہ ہے, کم سے میں آپ کے پاس اجازت لینے آیا تھا. کہا میں اس کو کیسے مرنے کی اجازت دے دوں؟ جو بھی مقتل میں جاتا ہے ارے وہ شہید ہو جاتا ہے. بس 2 جملے اور زحمت تمام. جب کوئی چارہ گری نہ ہوئی, ایک دفعہ ام فروا نے وہ تعویذ کھول کے حسین کو دیا. حسین نے تعویذ پڑھا, اپنے بھائی کی لکھائی پہچان لی, کہا یہ میرے بھائی کا لکھا ہوا خط ہے. حسین نے اپنے پاس رکھا, کہا اے قاسم تم اپنا شہادت نامہ ساتھ لائے ہو. بس امام حسین نے قاسم کو آمادہ کیا, سر پہ امامہ رکھا, امامے کو تحت الحنک دی, ارے گربان کے بٹن کو چاک کر دیا, ایسے جیسے کوئی یتیم ہو, سوار کرایا. کوئی ذرا اتنی بڑی نہ تھی جو قاسم کے سینے پہ آ سکتی, ارے تلوار اتنی چھوٹی نہ تھی جو قاسم کے لائق ہوتی, لیکن اس طریقے سے مقتل میں بھیجا. یہ بچہ آتا ہے, he makes his way to the مقتل, he comes and he introduces himself and he says in تنکرونی فانا ابن الحسن. If you deny who I am, if you don't know who I am, then know I am the son of Hassan. ارے میں حسن کا بیٹا ہوں. بس آگے بڑھتے ہیں. روایات میں ملتا ہے جننے بچے نے ایسا جہاد کیا, ایسا جہاد کیا, کہیں 35 کہیں 70 لعینوں کو واصل جہنم کیا. ایک شخص ہے جس کا نام ہے عمر ازدی, وہ کہتا ہے میں اس بچے پہ حملہ کروں گا. حمید راوی لکھتا ہے ارے تجھے حملہ کرنے کی کیا ضرورت, اتنی بڑی قوم اشقیاء موجود ہے, اتنی بڑی فوج موجود ہے, کہا نہیں میں حملہ کروں گا. I will attack this child. وہ وقت ڈھونڈتا ہے. He ambushed امام حسن سن قاسم. ایک موقع ایسا ملا جب امام حسن کا بیٹا اپنے زین پہ ڈگمگا رہا تھا. ایک دفعہ عمر عزازدی نے ایسا وار کیا, اب قاسم زی سے زمین پہ آئے, ابھی زمین پہ آنا تھا. ایک دفعہ جو بھی شہید آتا تھا زمین پہ امام کو پکارتا تھا, لیکن قاسم کا انداز الگ ہے. He calls on upon Imam Hussein differently. He says یا اما ادرکنی, اے میرے چچا اے میرے چچا میرے ادراک کیجئے، میری مدد کو آئیے۔ حسین کا یہ سننا تھا، حسین باز کی طرح مقتل میں پہنچتے ہیں، امر آزادی کے اوپر ایک وار کرتے ہیں، اس کا ہاتھ کٹتا ہے، وہ اپنے دوستوں کو بلاتا ہے، ادھر سے قوم اشقیہ چلتی ہے، جیسے ہی گھوڑے آتے ہیں روایات یہ کہتی ہیں عمر آزادی تو کچلا گیا، لیکن ساتھ ساتھ قاسم بھی۔ ارے ان گھوڑوں کی ٹاپوں کے نیچے حسین نے اپنی عبا اتاری، قاسم کے ٹکڑے جمع کیے، واپس لے کے آئے۔ اے ام فروا یہ قاسم ہے، واہ حسینہ واہ عباسہ واہ قاسمہ، ماتم حسین۔